For the first time in the election race, Harris has pulled ahead of Trump on the economy, according to new polls. Harris's lead also comes ahead of the Democratic National Convention set to take place next week. For more, we are joined by Chris Casquejo from VOA. Welcome back, Chris.
Good to be with you.
Thanks for joining us. So, new polls indicate Harris is more trusted than Trump in terms of the U.S. economy. Isn't this the first time the Democratic Party is taking a lead in this field?
Yes, this is the first time in about a year that the University of Michigan and Financial Times in London have been tracking voter sentiment. And it's the first time in a year that the Democratic candidate has led on the issue of the economy. Now, the numbers are that 42% of voters said they trusted Harris more to handle the economy compared with 41% who say Trump is better on handling the economy. While Trump's numbers were unchanged from last month, Harris's numbers are a 7% improvement over President Biden's numbers from July before he dropped out of the race. Now, Americans still cite inflation as their biggest concern going into the November election, and the survey showed only 19% of voters believe they are better off today than when Biden took office in 2021. But the new FT Michigan Ross Business School survey also showed that Harris may be able to distance herself from Biden on economic issues. Fully 60% of those surveyed said that she should either break completely from the president's economic platform or make major changes to his platform. And she's already started to articulate some of her economic policy. Recently, she said that she did not want to tax tips for service and restaurant workers. And Trump took to his social media platform to call her a copycat because he had earlier suggested the same proposal.
Right, and of course, these polls are surely a relief for the Democratic Party, but still, many voters over in the U.S. believe, Trump will do a better job revitalizing the economy. Is that so?
Right. Underlying economic unease among the electorate could still benefit Trump, who, during his nationally televised press conference last Thursday, continued to criticize the Biden administration for its record on inflation. And of course, he's going to continue to tie Vice President Harris to the Biden record. Just 1 in 4 registered voters rated economic conditions as either excellent or good, and 42% said they would be much or somewhat better off if Trump spent another 4 years in the White House. But just 33% said they would be much or somewhat better off under a Harris presidency. Now, University of Michigan Business School professor Eric Gordon said this poll is good news for previously anxious Democrats, but their worries aren't over because voters still see themselves better off with Trump as president, and most voters think of their interests first and grand policy questions second.
And Harris is set to formally accept the Democratic Party's nomination at the convention, taking place in Chicago next week. What to expect here?
Yes, Harris will be the first Black woman and Indian American in the U.S. in U.S. history to secure a major party's presidential nomination, and she will formally accept the Democratic Party's nomination at the convention in a speech Thursday night. The party is expecting an estimated 50,000 visitors to the so-called Windy City. And this is the first time the convention will be held in Chicago since 1996, when former President Bill Clinton was nominated for his second term. Now, protests are expected during the Democratic convention in Chicago. The largest protests will likely take place on the first and last days of the convention, though several others have been announced. An umbrella group of organizations on the left, the Coalition to March on the DNC, organizes marches on both of the days, largely focusing on Israel's war in Gaza, and many Democrats supported it. So we might see a renewal of some of those protests that were on college campuses, only on a bigger scale. But it's so important to note that there is a wide security perimeter in Chicago, like there was for the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. And that convention drew far fewer less protesters than analysts had expected.
Right. And on top of that, what's notable is that some prominent Democratic figures are set to deliver speeches at the convention in Chicago, namely President Joe Biden and former Presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. Let's talk about that.
Right, that's right. Current President Joe Biden and former Presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton have been confirmed as speakers at the convention. Biden, Hillary Clinton, and Barack Obama were the Democratic candidates in the last three presidential elections, 2020, 2016, and 2012. And Bill Clinton and former President Clinton and former President Obama remain two of the Democratic Party's most popular figures. A source said that former President Jimmy Carter's grandson, Jason Carter, is also confirmed to be speaking on behalf of his grandfather, who is ailing and in hospice care, but is still with us.
Right. And Chris, before I let you go, another interesting development this week. Trump reportedly using a slur against Harris in private conversations. What is this all about?
Right. Former U.S. President Donald Trump reportedly has been in a foul mood over the past few weeks because of the surge in Vice President Kamala Harris's support and her rising poll numbers. And he has reportedly referred to her as a bitch on multiple occasions in private, according to a report by the New York Times. Now, the report is based on two sources who claim to have heard Trump make these remarks during different instances. Now, Trump campaign spokesperson Stephen Chung denied these allegations, asserting this is not language President Trump has used to describe Kamala, and it's not how the campaign would characterize her. But Trump has a long history of attacking particularly female rivals and critics in very personal terms, usually describing them as mentally unstable or worse. He reportedly called Angela Merkel, the former German chancellor, also a bitch in front of officials in his own administration while he was president, according to the book I Alone Can Fix It, which was written by the Washington Post journalists Carol Leonig and Philip Rucker. And Trump's use of the phrase was later confirmed to the New York Times. So
all right, Chris, thanks for
the
coverage. All right, thank you. Thank you. We appreciate it.
See you again soon.